I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you. Justin will be joining us. He's just a few minutes away. Seconds? Oh, boy, yeah. Oh, there. He got all the green lights then. We'll say after this third week hearing, I'm really going to miss how much nicer the Pledge of Allegiance sounded in a full room. Is that phone call, was that a citizen concern, or is that something on the agenda? Did we find out?
We're not sure. I'll find out.
Okay. All right. So,
Mr. Milligan,
Yes.
is your concern something that's already on the agenda?
Yes, it is.
all right. So we'll come back to it at that time.
We'll come back to it at that time, so just stay on the line.
All right.
So citizen concerns, this is round one. Anything to be heard that is not already on the agenda today? All right. Move on to approval of the agenda. I'll move it.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving on to the consent agenda. Items 3 through 6 constitute a consent agenda of routine action items to be considered by one motion. Items passed unanimously unless a separate vote is requested by a board member. Item 3 is approval of the minutes of the August 16th, 2022 meeting. Item 4 is approval of claims. Item 5 from Human Resources, A is approval of memorandum of personnel transactions, and B, approved to the renewal of Employee and Family Resources as our employee assistance provider. The EAP is for short. And item 6, County Treasurer, approved property tax refund request for EM for parcel 84717328021 in the amount of $634.78. That ends the consent agenda. Any questions for anything on there?
I would move the consent agenda.
Second, motion by Taylor, second by Raddick. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Item 7 from Deputy County Recorder, approved to have the Treasurer's Office refund the county portion of transfer tax in the amount of $220.52 to the Gehling Osborne Law Firm. Go ahead.
I think you have all the information in front of you. I think it's a valid
Sure thing.
refund.
I'll move that.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All right, any other questions or discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Passes 5-0. So we're at 4:33, so we're going to jump ahead. Item 9A, receive bids for project parent B64 and return them to the county engineer for review and recommendation. Is he not here?
Yeah, he's over here.
Oh, okay.
We have 3 bids for the bridge replacement project. We let this project for the precast concrete sections for the bridge deck back in March, I believe it was. And now this is to actually build the abutments and set those deck sections in place.
Is this microphone on?
It's green light.
Okay.
I can try and duck down and speak a little louder.
That worked? Okay. You can hear better? Okay.
All right. Sorry about that. It is kind of quiet, isn't it? Our first bid is from Nelson and Rock Contracting of Ottawa, Iowa. Oh, I have bid tabs. Can I get you to hand these out, Dennis, so I can keep going and keep us moving? They did submit a proper bid bond.
Go ahead.
Total bid price, $298,011.40. 298,011.40. Next bid is from Dixon Construction, Correctionville. Proper bid bond was submitted. Total bid price, $298,190. 298,190. Final bid is from Graves Construction of Spencer, Iowa. Proper bid bond was included. Total bid price, $334,079. 344,079.
So with the $188 difference, do you just want us to receive them?
Yeah, I think I'm recommending the board receive the bids and allow us to examine them for
So I'll move to receive.
any errors.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. So we're going to skip on B. What do we got? Let's receive bids. Item C, receive bids for projects slurry leveling 2022 and return them to county engineer for review and recommendation possibly.
This is going to be quick. We only received one quotation for the slurry wedge edge rut work from Midwest Coatings Company, $173,860 total quote.
How far is that from the estimate?
It's a little bit higher, but I'm going to recommend award.
Sure thing. All right, I'll move to receive.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Okay,
This
so
is difficult to estimate. We're filling in the low
There's another one
wheel
there.
rut on Old 75 between Salix and the county line. That area is between 3/4 of an inch to 1.5 inches low, right over where the pavement was widened. It is a safety issue. We need to get this work done until we are able to resurface that road. So
I'll move to approve the bid.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any
You mean
discussion?
award?
Yeah, award, yeah. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
thank you.
We can hit E here. We still got a minute, two.
Oh,
Approve the certificate of completion for maintenance gravel Peters Pit 2021 with bedrock gravel for $469,000.
the work has been completed, and I recommend signing of the completion certificate.
Move to approve.
Second, motion by DeWitt, second by Raddick. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? That passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna start the public hearing in just a second. We got item 8, secondary roads, Mark Nara, Community Economic Development, Dan Priestley. A is public hearing for an ordinance to amend portions of Woodbury County's ordinance number 56, an amendment to modify section 6.1A, wind turbine setback requirements in the ordinance regulating commercial wind energy conversion systems in unincorporated Woodbury County. Please remember to keep your remarks to 3 minutes or less. I guess one chance to come up on that per person. Try not to have arguments within the room with people, and let's everyone silence their cell phones except for the timer. So with that, we're at 4:40.
Good afternoon. My name's Larry Philippi. I live at 2127 Kasuth Avenue, Anthony, Iowa. Last week I said research is easy to do, answers and facts are not hard to find. It may take a little time in finding out Mid-American is not everything they say they are, or any other company for that matter. William Doherty, who's here today from Mid-American, was quoted as saying last week in the Journal that noise emitted by the turbines has no impact on public health, per research done by the University of Iowa Public Health Department. I actually went out and I found that report. Here's an interesting fact, or some interesting facts. One of the main authors of that research is Carrie Johansson. She is an energy program director with the Iowa Environmental Council. She has also most recently administered the Iowa Power Fund for innovation of clean energy projects and worked as an analyst and legislative liaison for the Iowa utility boards. The other two authors are professors, which had allowed this research report to be accredited with a major university name. In this case, it was the University of Iowa. Dr. Peter Thorne is a 30-year research expert of pulmonary toxicology and has been the director of pulmonary research for 27 years at the University of Iowa. In other words, he is an expert on the human respiratory tract, your lungs, not your ears. Last but not least is Professor David Osterberg. He is a retired professor, a former state legislature, and a current climate change advocate, and is currently working for a nonprofit at the University of Iowa for renewable energy. There are no biases here, right? Think again. I'm getting tired of our intelligence continually being insulted by Mid-American. You guys just aren't being truthful. That's just the bottom line. I will end with this quote from Warren Buffett, owner of Mid-American, who told an audience in Omaha, Nebraska recently, quote, "I will do anything that is basically covered by the law to reduce Berkshire's Hathaway tax rate." For example, and this is Warren Buffett talking here, on wind energy, we get a tax credit if we build a lot of wind farms. That's the only reason to build them. This is Warren Buffett now that owns Mid-American. The only reason he builds the wind farms is for the tax credit. He says it. They don't make sense without the tax credit. End of quote. Mid-American plans on spending $3.9 billion on wind industrial sites just to lower Warren Buffett's tax rate. I'd like to submit for public record the Sioux City Journal article quoting Mr. Doherty, the three authors' bios who wrote the report, and the executive summary of the report.
I'd move to receive.
Second.
Motion by Taylor, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. I guess on a, go ahead. Yep.
Adam Jablonski, Mid-American Energy. Nice seeing everyone again. I thought that would be a good segue to my topics tonight are, we hear that safety is a concern, and you'll have to hopefully appreciate it. It's hard for me to understand that, given Mid-American's operational history and knowledge in the wind industry in a third of the counties in Iowa, 3,400 wind turbines over the last almost 2 decades. So let's, if we forget about all these studies, people are handing in, we kind of look at the facts. It reminded me the last few days of something we did a few years ago. I think it was for a similar situation like this, where we were discussing a wind ordinance in front of a county. So we wanted to look at, the facts. What's out in the field? What's real? What's happening? Who's living around there and stuff? So we did this review in 2019. And it showed that, and at that time, we had 2,584 operating turbines. At that time, we had 2,101 residences within a half mile of those operating turbines. So that's about at the level you guys are considering right now of that setback, about a half mile or less. So at that time, a few years ago, over 2,100 residences.
Could you speak a little closer to the
sorry.
mic? Thank you.
Yep. So at that time, a few years ago, we had 2,100 residences within a half mile of our operating wind turbines. Since 2019, we've added 829 wind turbines. So you do some math, and the residents are approximately 2,600 residences in Iowa within a half mile of a turbine. So hopefully you can appreciate for us, it's hard to understand that there's a certain threat level that applies to Woodbury County residences that doesn't apply to the rest of Iowa. And that's just Mid-American numbers. We own about half of the wind turbines in Iowa, and there's about 50,000, wind turbines across the United States. So fortunately, this isn't new technology. Fortunately, we have a lot of operating history. Fortunately, we have not had a safety incident in the public. So I just ask you to consider, outside of studies that various people hand in on both sides, what's the fact of the matter? The fact of the matter is there's thousands of residents living within a half mile of a turbine. No safety incidents on our part, thankfully, so far, and I think with good reason. So hopefully you can consider the actual in the field operating evidence that we have at Mid-American. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is John Nelson, live at 1255 Minnesota Avenue, Correctionville, Iowa. I'm a volunteer firefighter with Mobille's Fire Department, lieutenant on there, been there for 5 years. Last meeting was a lot about safety, and we just heard about some safety from there. And so I went and did some of my own research as far as safety and emergency response stuff. Dealing with safety of these wind turbines, there is no NFPA standard for any fire emergency response as far as windmills are concerned. The closest one we have is NFPA 850, which is a recommended practice for fire protection for electric generating plants, high voltage direct current converter stations for gas, coal, oil, or alternative fuels such as ethanol or soy biodiesel. I have here, I'd like to submit 5 high-profile wind turbine fires that have been over about the last decade or so, if you guys would be willing to receive.
Move to receive. Second.
Motion by Taylor, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Go ahead.
In some of those high-profile fires, you'll see that the fires caused by those were not being able to put out by any of the volunteer fire service because of the size of the windmill. They were basically just told to, contain the fire, which some of them went from 250 up to 367 acres. And just for a frame of reference, a 1,250-foot radius, which is what it is now, is only roughly 112 acres. 2,500-foot radius would be about 450 acres. And I've been on 2 large fires in Woodbury County, one of which in 19 took all 13 volunteer departments and the 185th Refueling Wing to stop, as well as probably 100 different farmers. I don't care to be a part of one of those again. And I was on another one this spring down by Hornick that took probably 7 departments. And in that time, other responding departments from a different county had to cover fires in my district. That caused the loss of 2 homes up by Merrill. We don't need that in our county. And for you two that said that safety wasn't concerned, when my pager rings for a fire, I challenge you to come out and help me. It would be really appreciated. That's all I have. Thanks.
Hi, Brittany Vandermullen, 3345 245th Street, Anthem. So last week I talked to you about the biological effects and how low frequency sound on the fetus development and deformities in the offspring. My adrenaline increased, my words got flustered. I went off of what I had written down, and later I asked myself, why? I speak publicly in every day to people. So why today? What happened? I thought at first it was because if this happens to animals, it can happen to people. Our cells are not that differently. But that wasn't it. It was something deeper. It's my home. It's Woodbury County. This is where I grew up. My parents raised me on a farm with lots of animals: cows, pigs, sheep, chickens, rabbits, cats, dogs, horses. We even raised bison. Okay, so my dad taught me to appreciate the growth and development of animals, how to love for them, care for them, show them at fair. Each spring, I want you to imagine this. When the baby calves are born, we stand at the gate, my dad and I, shoulder to shoulder, jeans and cowboy boots, 1 foot up on the rung and the arms crossed across the top. We're looking, we're smiling, we're laughing and watching those calves run and chasing. Now my husband and I bought acreage 4 miles from my parents. So last week I brought my kiddos. They're not here today, but now I have the opportunity to have them with me. I have a 9-year-old son and a 7-year-old daughter. And in the spring, they are standing with us, shoulder to shoulder, jeans and boots, looking at those calves. This is a memory. This is Woodbury County. This is our legacy. Okay. My son is in the Mobile Record. I don't know if you guys get the Mobile Record being in Sioux City, but this is my son here. He loves raising cattle now. He's showing his love for cattle in a unique opportunity that he got to do, where he got to work with a special needs kid to show a calf. That special needs kid doesn't have the opportunity to do that. But my son got to share this with him. That's Woodbury County. Community, sharing, and giving of ourselves. My son's calf from 3 years ago is now a cow. She got pregnant, and we brought her from the rest of the herd to our home, to the barn, so those kids can share in that experience. We made bets on how big she was gonna get, when she was gonna have her due date, was it gonna be a boy or a girl. Those are memories. The morning that calf was born, the kids came running out in pajamas and mud boots. They climbed into that pen with that calf, they sat beside it, talked to it, pet it, and smiled. That is a moment for Woodbury County. Families together and kids and smiles. Okay. No price tag can be put on that, but you can sure take away every one of those memories from us by putting wind turbines close to our breeding animals. Those are gonna change. Going out and looking at those calves deformed, disgusting, okay? My son not being able to have the opportunity to share this raising his cattle with somebody else, you're taking that away from him if these animals are deformed. And that moment when we were in the barn, that's our family. So I ask you, change this to 2,500 feet or more. And I hope that today I made my dad proud by coming up here and standing up for Woodbury County farmers. I think you all need to go back and listen to a poem read by Paul Harvey.
We just need to wrap it up. I'm sorry, you've gone over the 3
Okay.
minutes.
I have one last sentence. Go back and listen to Paul Harvey when he read the poem, "So God Made Farmers," not a wind farm.
My name is Sandy Holst. I live at 2830 Deer Run Trail, Anthony, Iowa, close to Brittany. And we came to this not knowing we did not want wind farms, but we didn't know much about them. So we had an open mind to begin with. But since we've learned and studied the last 2 weeks, 3 now, we've learned that there's many things negative about it. I know Mid-America wants to tell us how glamorous this is and wonderful. That's what they're paid for. But we want to know that we're going to be living with this. My son, one son is a lawyer, and he researched and had his staff research. This is a peer-reviewed study from Canada, and they said you are going to have more incidences of health issues with wind turbines. And so I would like to submit that and let you read it at your
I'd move to receive.
Second.
leisure. Thank you.
Motion by Taylor, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
The first paragraph tells us that the Canadian family physicians can expect to see increasing numbers of rural patients reporting adverse effects from exposure to industrial wind turbines. That's the first line. And this is a study, if you look in the back, it's been reviewed by numerous, there's like 2 pages of people that have reviewed this, doctors that care about people. I also would like to submit, we went through this, I was a teacher, farm and teach, my 2 favorite things. And so I like to think things, see them and figure it out. So in my humble estimation, there are 2 pros. Payouts to a few landlords or to the county. Purportedly helps address our climate change. This is a theory, people. This is not fact necessarily. Okay, so over here on the cons, oh my gosh, there seems to be a lot more cons than there is good things. I can't understand it. But we're going to lose farmable acres, often more than stated, after we have talked to numerous people that allow them to put it on their land. Okay, so you want to go to facts. A fact is that crops take in and use carbon dioxide. They give off oxygen that's been purified and cleaned. Golly, that's going to help our climate, right? So why do we want to tear up a bunch more crops so that it is destroyed and not helping our environment? Tens and millions of our tax dollars, those of us that pay, is going to go to Mid-America through government programs. And I think we just heard that, how that is effective. I have to stop.
Just wrap it up.
Oh.
Final thought.
Well, if you can read the rest really quickly here. Okay, so it causes long-term damage to our landscapes, our roads, our century farms, our fields, our ditches, our topsoil, because they removed, we just learned from this guy from Nebraska, they took off the tops of his lush hills. And then they don't know what they did with it, but when they put it back, it was not like it was, and the soil was destroyed for generations.
I guess by final thought, I mean like wrap it up, like
Okay, I'm trying my best. I'll
not
speed
10 more
read.
sentences, just
Okay, well, I'm afraid you won't read. So please read this through.
honestly, I mean, I'm not trying to be offensive, but
I understand.
the five of us, I don't think any of us are going to change our mind here today.
But I don't understand that, Mr. Radke.
Sure. And
I can't
I get that.
understand how you can be for this and against.
Again, this is entering and debating here, and it's a
But it
public
breaks my
hearing.
heart that you guys think, how can you possibly think this is good for your
Again-
people that you represent?
So
You are paid to take care of us.
I don't believe studies in general, and I honestly,
That's fine.
I don't-
Don't read the
I don't know
study.
how anyone can trust a study after the last 2 years of COVID, honestly.
Oh, I understand. I totally
I
I totally understand that, but I don't think that that's, these other things from people that have had the turbines and have had to live with it and wish they never had anything to do with them, and how they have, these gentlemen, I'm sure they believe what they're saying because that's what they're taught and told. But when it gets down to it, when it actually happens, it doesn't go like they said, and their land is destroyed. And I don't know how you could possibly want to have that and damage our health. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Aaron Peterson from Audubon County. Does anybody know what happened in Audubon County last year? We had a wind farm being put up there. Our ground was involved in it. I was asked by some of these individuals to come up here. So what do you think inspired me to drive 129 miles with $5 fuel to come up here and talk about this? I sleep on a pillow which has 1,642 feet away from a windmill that is right behind my bed. You don't believe in studies or whatever else? I believe in facts. This right here is the contract that my dead father-in-law signed over 10 years ago when they had within a month or two to progress that wind farm or whatever else. Everybody see the thickness of this? It's over almost a quarter of an inch thick. You know how many lines or pages in this thing that actually protect these farmers? I bet you I could put all the information in the few categories on this contract that they want to bind us by in less than a page. So, with that being said, this is some of the devastation that's been done to our farm. We have 4 turbines put on there. The crop damage, they left stakes behind. Now, I know this was not done by Mid-America, it was done by a competing company. But nonetheless, one company, everything we were told throughout this project was a lie. From the red blinking lights, to the studies, the birds being not killed by the blades, so on and so forth. Everybody has seen, let's say, a yogurt parfait that you're getting from McDonald's. You got the white yogurt at the bottom, the strawberry, and the granola at the top. All right, so let's represent that as the soil of our farms coming back to this picture right here. All right, so that's the layers of our soil. After they're done digging these holes, trenching across your farm, you take a spoon and you stir that up. Take a little bit of the granola out for topsoiling it and put that to the side. And then they mix up your dirt and we're left to deal with that. I can show you pictures right here, right alongside. This is a road that they abandoned one of the windmills of this tower right here, which was going to be within 500 feet of our 100 head of cattle that we breed. Back to the lady's previous statement with the gestation, they abandoned this. This is their reclamation. This is sterile dirt because they put their stuff down on the farm. As you can see, there's 6-foot weeds along the fence here, crop over here. There's literally nothing growing there. It has not been sprayed. This is how they disrespect our land. This is where they've reclaimed the soil. You can literally still see the radius around here, the loss of production in the beans. Here's corn without ears around the compaction, and I subsoiled it, they subsoiled it, mixing of the dirt. Another spot where they shade the hills and put it back. The best way to explain what they did there, you take a stick, put a 100-foot string on it, and if you gotta have maintain a foot over top of that, or they'll shave the hill down so they can get their blades up over top of it. If you guys have any questions behind me, not only to go with that, I have not been paid yet for my crop compensation, which is over $425,000 that the other competing company owes me for my crop damage last year, and I have not yet received it. So do not believe a word that they tell you.
Will Doherty, Mid-American, Urbandale, Iowa. I believe I have some obligations to the supervisors from last week, data request. First thing I'd like to submit, let me get my papers in order here quick. I'm not going to touch on it very heavily because we've already talked about it a lot, it seems like. It's just more studies about health and wind turbines. It's 25 studies done across independent verifications over the course of a decade, across about 5 or 6 different countries. So just more food for thought.
I move to receive.
Second.
Motion by Taylor, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Second thing I'd like to submit, so last week Supervisor Taylor asked for Mid-American's liability obligations under the wind easement. I'd like to submit that to the board as well.
Move to receive.
Second.
Motion by Taylor, second by DeWitt. Any discussion?
Sorry.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So in summary, basically Mid-American's liable for any damages caused to the property under the agreement and shall indemnify, defend, hold harmless owner, owner's members, partner, lender, officers, employees, and agents against any all losses, damages, claims, expenses, and other liabilities. This obviously excludes any negligent behavior or intentional acts. So, in summary, once again, Mid-American is held liable for any of those damages caused on said property under agreement. Oh, sorry, in addition, there's also liability coverage in there as well for $5 million per occurrence. There's liability coverage that we are obligated to maintain.
$5 million per occurrence.
$5 million. Yep. The other thing that oh, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
If I can make a point and not have it count against Mr. Doherty's time? Okay, and just for a point of clarification.
Yeah.
Help me out because I'm seeing this for the first time. Mid-American shall not be liable for losses of rent, business opportunities, profits, or any other consequential, incidental, punitive, or exemplary damages that result from the conduct of Mid-American's operations on the property. Is that a true statement?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just a layman. I'm not a lawyer. I think I'm a fellow teacher like somebody in the audience. But to me, the simple read of that would mean that you're not liable for damages that may result from your operations. Was that a fair statement?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay, so help me out again. I'll read it again and give me a different interpretation of the one that I'm reading for you.
So I guess to also clarify, I also am not a lawyer.
Okay.
So we're on
I'll
the
make it as
even
easy as
playing here,
possible. And I'll just omit a few words. Mid-American shall not be liable for damages that result from the conduct of Mid-American's operations.
Is that paraphrasing? I believe there is such as loss of rent or...
Right, so that's a list of many different things. I took out the losses of rent, I took out the business opportunities, I took out the profits, or any other consequential incident, punitive or exemplary damages that may result from the conduct of Mid-American's operations. So I guess what I'm saying is you're presenting this contract to a bunch of us, landowners, property owners, people. I'm a supervisor. I'm looking at this, and to me, the read would be, you're not liable for damages that result from the conduct of Mid-American's operations on the property. I don't see any other way of interpreting it.
Except for perhaps the first sentence of the indemnification section. Mid-American shall identify, defend, hold harmless owners, members, partners. So you're saying,
Right. So indemnity is something that you're extending to the owners of those.
Correct.
You're not going to hold somebody liable, okay? They're going to have indemnity for that. But you're also not holding yourself liable. In other words, as a property owner, nobody can come back to me and say, well, your windmill damaged my cattle or damaged my person on an adjacent property. You're basically indemnifying that person, so they say, well, it doesn't matter if it's 1,200 foot away and the windmill caused that damage. I'm not going to be liable. But you're also saying Mid-American will not be liable either. That's what this contract, that's how this reads. And I guess I'm wondering, you're presenting to this to us, first time we've seen it, and unless we just receive it into the record and sort of pass it on, I'm wondering how you interpret that any other way than Mid-American has no liability for these and the damages that they may cause. Is that?
sure. And once again, as you discussed, you're not a lawyer, I'm not a lawyer. That's how it reads, correct. We also do have liability insurance. Mid-American agrees to maintain liability insurance covering its operations on the property. So if there is damages on the property, it would be covered under insurance. And I guess he can chime in. He would know better than I.
Yeah, I would like that answer. I mean, you're asking people to sign that your company is not going to be liable for damages.
What you're not seeing on there is a bunch of other provisions in there. So there's also provisions in there that say we're responsible for crop damages, we're responsible for restoration. And so when you get into the details of that section where it says like loss of rent, so a turbine will take up some, like a half an acre to 3/4 of an acre that will reduce the rent on the property. Mid-American's not liable for that, but we're compensating you for that in our payments. So there's a bunch of carve-outs is what I'm saying in all the other sections where we'll be responsible for any and all crop damages that occur as part of our operations, construction, et cetera. There's liability sections in there for any, safety accidents or whatever that is on the property. But like.
Just, we're not seeing those. Is that the?
Because it says right here, except as provided in section 4.2 and exhibit B, comma, then they are not liable.
And
Okay.
4.2 is on there as well for crop damages as a reference.
Right, but not a person, correct?
There's a lot of person, like if a person got injured, well, we're absolutely liable for that.
Okay.
Is that-
Where is that in here?
It's an exhibit B, I'm guessing, which is not on
Yeah,
here.
it could be. These are just kind of snippets of those sections you requested, but I can guarantee you, we're responsible under our easements for any damages.
Okay.
Yep. We can submit the full easement if you want, but, we've plucked out the certain sections. There's a bunch of different provisions and carve-outs and tiebacks to those provisions throughout the easement, just like the crop damage compensation section. There was a full section on crop damage compensation that we're liable for any and all crop damages we cause, and we'll pay for those. But if there's like a loss of rent because we took out, a half an acre or something, that's not ours. That's one of the provisions in there.
Okay. I don't want to take up too much time, but can you see, guys, why there'd be a little bit of heartburn? I asked for any and all liability provisions in here. You've given us one page, and in this page, there's a paragraph that says you're not liable for a whole bunch of stuff, and we have a guess that it's maybe somewhere else, or it's maybe covered, or it does reference another section where it just talks about crop damage, but not a lot of the concerns that are being raised. That's my heartburn seeing this right now.
I can guarantee you that there's sections of coverage that if there's an incident, let's say, for example, that Mid-American's turbine causes an incident on the property, we are absolutely liable and responsible.
I would absolutely hope so.
Yep.
I'm just not seeing it.
That's kind of just standard. Yeah.
It may be standard, but again,
Yep.
unless it's in writing.
Go around, we can disclose the full easement minus payment terms that are, public between us and landowners.
So is that something you're prepared to do tonight, to give us an entire contract?
We don't have that with us.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Yep. That's not what we were asked for last time, so we just came.
Right, we were asked for any and all liability provisions. We have a page that says you're not liable for a lot of things. Thank you. You can start Mr. Doherty's time again.
All right, the other thing you had requested, Supervisor Taylor, was the OEM manufacturer's setback recommendations. I'd like to submit that to the board as well.
I move to receive.
Second.
Motion by Taylor, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
So in there, there's a, would you like me to?
Yeah, I think we can extend by a minute. Yeah.
Finish the thoughts, I guess.
Okay. So, quick summary of that. So in there, there is a email from Siemens Gamesa rep with the names and phone numbers redacted out so that people don't get pestered. There's also a Vestas memo along with a GE safety and maintenance guide, I believe is what it's called. So in the email from Siemens, they basically stated that they do not explicitly state setbacks as a part of their manuals. They basically tell developers to abide by municipalities, state laws, federal laws, and any governing bodies that would have that jurisdiction. Vestas is kind of more the same. They don't explicitly state it either. They basically refer to the American Clean Power Association, who is kind of seen as the gold standard when it comes to reviewing and making determinations on items such as this. And then the last one is GE, which they do have a setback recommendation at 1.1 times turbine height. That's approximately, with a minimum setback, of 170 meters, which is approximately 558 feet. This includes from public use areas, residences, office buildings, public buildings, parking lots, public roads, and railways. And this also constitutes coverage under the ice throw that has been discussed over the past 3 weeks, along with blade failure.
Thanks.
And then the last thing, unless there's any
That's
questions.
pretty good.
So last question.
Yep.
This is the entirety of the amount of data that Mid-American has regarding turbines from Siemens Gamesa and Vestas, these two memos, in terms of any specifications regarding safety, precautions, setbacks. This is the entirety of what Mid-American has?
I'm sure we could provide a maintenance manual for you if you would like it, but you had asked for the entirety of the setback recommendations, I believe, from the OEM manufacturers, which, as I stated, isn't explicitly written for two of them.
Okay.
And for one of them it is, and the GE one, it is in their manual. But
Okay.
since it's not stated, I don't guess I necessarily have a proper form or document to hand in.
As long as that's all that you
memo
have,
from
that's,
Vestas. I mean, I could submit a maintenance manual, but all that would say is just basically, you know, maintenance schedules for the turbines and operating conditions and typical operations jargon.
thank you.
So. And then.
Have we received?
Yeah, we did.
I won't talk on this because I know I'm out of time. That's just a white page from American Clean Power, formerly American Wind Energy Association. Thought it was an interesting read from O'Brien, Board Supervisor, O'Brien County, sorry, and then Cherokee County Economic Development Director.
I'll move to receive.
Second.
Motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
All right, apologize for running over time. Thank you.
Keith, let's not forget we got somebody on the phone.
Hey, do we want to hear the phone? Are we ready on there?
Yes, this is Charles Mulligan. My address is 4455 230th Street.
Was that Charles? Can you say that again for our clerk here who's got to record that?
Charles, Milligan, Milligan.
Thank you.
I've heard a lot of a lot of come and go on this. All I know is from what I've seen and heard myself by going and talking to people that have mills on their land, that have livestock around it, by listening to the mill. And I have one gentleman I talked to, they open their house up at night and use the burr, burr, burr of the windmill as a white sound for them to go to sleep with. Now, I know that everybody has a real pointed idea on this, but it still seems to me that if there's a problem with the contract, that the county board and or the attorney for the county should be involved in making sure that the documents state what they're supposed to state, and that therefore then the people who wish to have participation in this turbine establishment would have the opportunity to say yes or no after looking at the documents, rather than having someone else take and set a position that I'll use myself for an example. Before you put the first setback, I could have put 5 mills on my farm. After the first setback, I could put 3 on. If you go to the 2,500 feet, I can put 0 on it. And so that is a potential income of $70,000 or $42,000 or $0. I don't know what all the answers are. All I know is that as I have gone and talked to people where there are mills, I have only found 2 people. One of them was by word of mouth indirectly, and the other one was a television report on it when they were putting them up east of me. And the lady said, I don't want a windmill because I cannot hear my fish sing. That's a direct quote. So the idea of all of this, everybody has their own opinions. Perhaps a little more observation needs to be made on it. The school district in Denison, a number of years ago, before the wind turbines started in, was looking for ways to cut classes without destroying the education of their students. They got lucked out because the Iowa board that establishes the value of land came through and raised the value at that time. That was the only reason they were able to survive with the current education levels that they had. Since the turbines have gone in, I know that the school has money to do a lot of programs that it didn't have before. And I know that the Crawford County Board of Supervisors has money to spend that they didn't have to spend before.
So Charlie, we're going to have to cut you off there. We hit a 3-minute mark there. I don't know if you heard the timer, but.
No, I didn't. That's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Ryan Thomas, 342 Main Street, Mobile, Iowa. Mr. Ettig, I understand that you don't believe in studies. Do you believe in contracts? Because that seemed pretty shady. And another question I got for you is, do you believe in listening to your constituents? Because people in this room, we'll just keep it there instead of the whole country. We're getting tired of our elected officials telling us, no, I hear you, but we know what's best for you.
Hi, I'm Kim Brower. I live at 2163 220th Street in Bronson, Iowa. And I was a school business official for 11 years, so I just want to provide a little bit of clarity about school finance. We're blessed to live in the state of Iowa where they think equality is important. So the main budget for a school district is based on a per pupil cost, period. It doesn't matter what your how much tax revenue your district brings in, you're getting X amount of dollars per student coming into your district. And that is what you can use to pay for your teachers, you can pay for your textbooks, and you can pay for other things. There's lots of buckets within school finance, but your main general fund that comes from a per pupil basis is all you have to pay for your teachers. That's the main bucket. An increase in your taxable valuation could increase the amount of money you could provide for physical plant and equipment levies or debt levies. So you could build structures and things like that, but if you don't have students in the seats, you won't still have funds to provide the teachers, etc. So if we go through and we're putting up windmills in rural areas and people move away, the per pupil amount that those districts are going to get is going to go down. So while the taxable valuation for the districts could go up, the actual amount that they're going to get is based on the kids that are going to enroll in that district and are in the seats. It doesn't matter how much value is in the district for property. It comes down to kids in seats for when you're paying your teachers and buying your books and providing that type of funding. Thank you.
Mark Nelson, 3773 180th Street, Correctionville. I have 62 more petition signatures I'd like to submit for the record.
Move to receive.
Second. Motion by Taylor, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I would just like to let you guys know that with that, we're near 900 signatures. Secondly, I got 5 packets here that I'd like for each of you to take a look at. I'm going to show you guys a few items here in a second.
Move to receive.
Second.
Motion by Taylor, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
All right, now if you would take these packets and flip right back to page 3, third page in, I'd like to talk about this. So this is printed directly off of NOAA's website. If you know what NOAA is, NOAA, it's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. It is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. So if you flip into page 3, in the top picture there, you see a box with 4 pictures. The one on the left that's green with a big yellow circle in the middle, where that says KDDC radar with the cross, that's the Dodge City, Kansas Doppler radar. And to the left, it says the Montezuma Wind Farm. And then up in the right corner, it says the Spearville Wind Farm. Now look at the picture to the right of that. You can see that same cross. That's the Dodge City, Kansas Doppler radar. And you look to the left and the right where those wind farms are, and they look like storm cells. Okay, the reason I'm bringing this up is after the first hearing, I got home Tuesday night, and my brother and sister-in-law and my niece that live out in Illinois who farm out there had a severe storm that hit them about 3 weeks ago. Tornado, straight line winds, did all kinds of damage. The problem was there was no warning, none. National Weather Service, in fact, didn't believe people on the ground that a tornado had actually touched down and wreaked havoc. And the reason that they had no idea was there were 3 wind farms recently constructed in their county. NOAA, if you read this packet, and I've got another one I could submit to you, this is all from the U.S. Department of Commerce, by the way. NOAA provides all their information to National Weather Service. So anything you get from National Weather Service comes from these guys right here. When turbines get to 400 feet or higher, they reflect back the radar, the rays coming from the radar, and they give a blurb on the radar, just like you're seeing in that picture. So what permanently comes up on the radar is imaging that looks like a storm. And so they have no way to tell what's going on, and it's basically a dead zone. So what happened to my brother and sister-in-law in Illinois was a storm developed inside of that dead zone, and they never saw it coming. And there's no way they can. It's there day or night. And these can happen up to 75 miles from a Doppler radar. And so we have 2 things working against us here in the county. There's 2 ways that these turbines affect the Doppler radar. One is the tower height, which over 400 feet they cause problems. Here they're going to be closer to 600, so 50% higher. And 2 is elevation. The Sioux City Airport radar is about 1,100 feet. We're going to place a lot of these turbines at ridge tops, anywhere from 12 to nearly 1,400 feet. So you're going to have a 700 to 900 foot advantage of towers over where the radar is. You're going to create a dead zone in the radar in the rural part of the county that the National Weather Service or on to Mars or anybody in Sioux City, any of the weather stations will not be able to tell what kind of storm activity is going on and will not be able to alert the public. I think you guys need to be aware of this. It's well documented, and I just don't think that you guys want that on your conscience, that there are people out in the country that could not receive storm data information that could potentially save their lives. So, thank you. That's all I have.
Bob Fritzmeyer. I'm at 2933 Leach Avenue here in Sioux City. I'm with the Sierra Club in northwest Iowa, and a letter was sent to each of you 5 supervisors from our club chapter, our point woman here in Iowa, Katie Rock, on this issue. She stated in this letter that we have 970 members and supporters in Woodbury County. Her main point is the Sierra Club opposes the proposed wind turbine setback amendment. 1,250 feet is safe enough. The testimony that Mr. Jablonski gave from Mid-America was accurate. He pointed out there are thousands of wind turbines here in Iowa already. There have not been any safety issues with those people in all the data that he presented. Some of the information that also Ms. Rock pointed out was that Neil North, the coal-fired plant that Mid-American operates, is 47 years old. Neil South is 43 years old. And I would imagine that Will and Adam would agree that someday those plants are going to have to be retired. At some point. There's an age limit to them, wherever they are. The costs of clean energy, such as wind, are currently falling. So there's competitiveness there with the coal energy. One advantage of putting up the wind turbines here in Woodbury County would be to use the interconnection rights, the transmission lines, the rights that have been granted for those already. And if and when the coal plant has to be retired, then those could be used to improve the cost effectiveness of the clean energy project. Locating wind power near large demand centers such as ours, Sioux City, and the whole county would result in lower costs to customers by avoiding the cost of transmission lines. You're all aware that recently the Inflation Reduction Act was passed by our federal government. This includes new incentives to boost the benefits to communities, rural communities here in Woodbury County, the urban community here in Sioux City. It would increase the tax credit amounts available. Woodbury County would be eligible for increased tax credits. My hope is that you would make your decision based on sustainability for the future.
Hello, I'm Tim Hoy. My address is 3689 210th Street, Anthony, Iowa. I am here to address the board, and I am hard of hearing, so I have no idea what anybody else has said tonight. But I'm here to talk about just a few things, and it involves stewardship, community, and neighborhood. And as I look around the room and I see all these people from all over the county that I know, and all these producers that I know have spent their hard-earned money on stewardship, fixing a ditch, putting in a terrace, a 638, they're taking care of things. How many of our grandfathers and great-grandfathers embodied stewardship to make something for the next generation? Brittany's already talked about it. I know she has. I've got kids. How many people got kids out here? I've got 3 kids getting in the cattle business right now. They want a chance, and we want to do things as stewards, as community-minded, neighborly kind of people that we can do to further these young people. And if it's succession planning, or what if somebody wants to build on the other end of the place someday and now there's going to be a wind turbine in their backyard. We've got to protect the opportunities for the young people because they are the future. And I realize that we're the minority. Once you get east of Sioux City, all of us in the rural part of the county are in the minority, and it's not a Sioux City problem. But I'm very concerned that we've got to get these setbacks brought down to keep our young people, because nobody wants to move somewhere and have people such as my age make an unwise, unstewardly choice that's going to outlive us. And we do things that will be for the better for the long term. I mean, I know there's people that have a pond that was built by their grandpa. Well, they're protecting the soil and the water and all these things. So out here, we do things that are neighborly, and we volunteer, and we back up our words with our actions. And I'm a Sunday school teacher, a 4-H leader, a volunteer firefighter, and I do things like help my neighbors because that's just what you do. And we want to foster that, and that's all I got to say. Thank you.
We understood he meant increase it. Yeah, I think we understood him. Sorry again about our sound system in here. We have actually ordered a new speaker microphone system. It has just been delayed for what, about 16 months now? In
2 lifetimes.
Yeah, so maybe it'll get done before my term's up, but go ahead there.
Daniel Hare, 2889 Humboldt Avenue, Hornick, Iowa. I got right here a study that was done by an Iowa cardiologist. His name was Ben Johnson. And this is local right here in Iowa. This is a study he did about the health effects associated with industrial wind turbines. He says here in this study that the sound emissions from each wind turbine also interact with nearby turbines to produce a constantly changing and distracting medley of fluctuating sound called amplitude modulation. Depending on the frequency amplitude modulation of industrial wind turbines, the noise is both heard and perceived and easily evokes mental and physical stress. Unlike less complex daily noises, industrial wind turbine noise does not become accepted by our perception process and then unconsciously ignored. The subtle but constant changes make it difficult to or impossible to ignore. Further on here in the study, he concludes that industrial wind turbines cause adverse health effects with that definition being consistent with the WHO definitions and currently practiced health care. We are now in an era in science where we know that environmental factors, particularly noise, can and does cause adverse health effects, which can include serious cardiovascular consequences. Advances in understanding the consequences of disturbed sleep raise concern for contributing to the development of Alzheimer's disease. Shortened sleep duration has been highly correlated with cardiovascular disease development and endpoints of hypertension and ischemic heart disease. I will submit this here for you guys. It's pretty lengthy.
Motion by Taylor, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
Here's what the WHO's newest warning. It says the renowned Geneva-based organization has recently released a report that found wind power turbines have the potential to cause serious health problems, including hearing loss, tinnitus, high blood pressure, and even heart problems to people exposed to excessive noise levels they emit. And if you look around, guys, the information is all around us. We have information coming out of Canada now. We got information coming out of the U.S. We got information coming out of all over Europe. Just read the headlines. Right here, here's one right here. Just pulled it off the internet. South Australian farmers paid $1 million to host 19 turbines and tell the Senate there they would never do it again due to unbearable sleep-destroying noise. Here's another one from France. French couple who said wind farm affected health win legal fight. The couple claim they experienced a range of health problems, including headaches, insomnia, heart irregularities, depression, dizziness, tinnitus, and nausea for more than 2 years, insisting that these were caused by 6 wind turbines set up 2,296 feet from their home in southern France. So in conclusion, I just have this to say to you guys. You have a very important decision to make that will affect Woodbury County for decades to come. Please choose to protect our health, our residences, and our way of life. The evidence for such is overwhelming and is all around us. Just like we heard here, we're approaching 900 signatures on this petition and hundreds of phone calls that you all have received. Please choose wisely.
My name's Adam Herbold, 1257 Lenox Avenue, Pearson, Iowa. Okay, here I have a handout obtained at the Woodbury County Fair on recycling of wind turbine blades. Wind turbines are designed to last for decades, but technology is always improving. By outfitting Mid-American Energy's older wind turbines with new and improved components and a process called repowering, our turbines will generate electricity much longer and more efficiently. But what happens to the old blades? Well, first they have to cut it up, and it releases particles of the blade, resin, fiberglass, things that are not good in our lungs. Second, the blades are shipped off, so we got trucking costs. Third, the recovered materials are processed for new purposes, and they can be used as a raw material, be upcycled to a variety of products, okay? So that's what Mid-America says. So now, I have an article from the Des Moines Register from a wind farm near Walnut, Iowa. At a western Iowa wind farm, demolition crew saws through the red slashes marked on 120-foot turbine blades, cutting them into thirds before stuffing the thinnest piece inside the base's hollow cavity, giving workers room to load more blades onto a flatbed trailer. The work is part of Mid-America's energy efforts to repower nearly 110 turbines, updating existing towers with longer blades, new hubs, and refurnished generators. Mid-American's retired blades are destined for the Butler County landfill near David City, Nebraska, about 130 miles away, are among hundreds that will land in dumps across Iowa and the nation. Critics of wind energy say the blades' march to a landfill weakens the industry's claim that it's an environmentally friendly source of energy. So let's do some math here. 110 turbines at this site near Walnut, Iowa. Each turbine has 3 blades, 330 blades. They're 120 feet long. That's 7.5 miles of blades at this one location. They're going to be in a landfill. Okay? Frank Peters, Iowa State University Associate Professor of Industrial and Manufacturing Systems Engineering, said graduate students looked at whether chopped up blades could replace gravel in making concrete, but it wasn't financially viable given how much energy was needed to process the blades. Unless there's a better solution, they're going to get landfilled, Peters said. But if you look at the total economic and environmental costs of reprocessing that blade, landfills may be the best solution. So now I invite you, we're going to do some more math. 5,073 turbines in Iowa when this article was written. That's 15,219 blades. This comes out to 346 miles of wind turbine blades. The blades would reach Iowa from tip to tip, and those are going to end up in a landfill as well. So we live in a world that already has a plastic problem, a garbage problem, and we might be making some wind energy, but we're making some more garbage too. Thank you.
Roger Wilcox, 1033 Lee Avenue, Pearson. We obviously all believe in democracy, right? We wouldn't be here if we didn't. We're here to debate, to tell our opinions, for you guys to vote, simple majority. In the paper, in the Mobile Record, I see there's 59 people signed up, but yet you have all the people who will live among the wind turbines who are against it. I'm not sure why that's even an issue. It's going to benefit very few people. Some of those people obviously don't even live in the county, or maybe not in the state. They're absentee owners. So why would we even consider this if the people that you represent do not want it? Second thing, and it goes along with what she said about the schools, I called each one of you, somebody said it's gonna be good for the schools because of the tax revenue. But if we don't have people in our schools, it doesn't matter. If you have people looking to move, they're gonna choose a spot. If you look at all our schools, what do our rural schools need right now? They need people, they need kids. And who's gonna want to live underneath a wind turbine? Nobody. And if you put these out in the fields, like someone else said, there's not gonna be spots to build. And last thing is, I looked on the internet, see where Warren Buffett, 91 years old, he's like a 103 billionaire, something like that. And his house doesn't have a wind turbine in the back. And I ask each one of you, Matthew, Justin, Keith, Jeremy, Rocky, would you want to live under a wind turbine? I wouldn't. Thank you.
Doyle Turner, 2738 200th Street, Mobile. Did anybody else think that $5 million per incident is an insulting low number? That is ridiculous. Folks, they just told you what you're worth. Your family's worth $5 million. Anyhow, Mr. Raddick, last week you said that the studies on the catapult zone were inconsistent. Were any of those studies showing a number below 1250?
I'd have to double check. I don't remember what all of them were.
I've looked, I haven't seen any. I think they're pretty consistent that they're all above 1250.
I would again.
The number you're voting for is 1250, correct?
No, actually, I was looking at a times length of blade or turbine, like the 3 times.
But when
or
you
maybe
vote
2.5.
against you're voting against what happens, then you're leaving it where it already is.
No, not necessarily.
Have you suggested anything different?
Actually, I was thinking that they should look at the 3.5 times distance in their motion to be preparing for things in the future, because right now they're looking at 500-600 foot towers, but who's to say in 5 years they're not 1,000-foot towers? That was just me thinking, but I'm just one of 5.
It could be added. What is the risk inside the catapult zone? You've said that it's low. Can you quantify it?
Well, just from any incident that I could ever find or read about, you could rarely find anything where it was over 300 foot in any of the situations that made the news. 300
foot that an incident happened where it actually hit something or someone?
Yeah, I never found anything over 300 foot.
If you study statistics, you realize that the farther that gets, your statistics of actually landing on something do get smaller.
Sure.
But it's also more lethal.
Sure. But again, at the
velocity.
same time, like if you look at real world incidents, I couldn't find anything over 300 foot when I looked.
But we do have people who have been killed from ice coming off of them. And 1250 is below that catapult zone. What level of risk are you willing? You're taking this risk for individual people who live inside that catapult zone. What level of risk is too high for you?
Well, again, you could make that argument about everything that goes on. I mean, everything that farmers do has some relative risk to it. I've heard of people trying to get a deer out of a harvester blade and their kid gets cut in half. There's a lot of people
what part
that
of
die
that
in
action
grain
did
bins.
the supervisors
Did we
have a
ban
decision
grain
role?
bins? I mean, honestly.
Honestly, what part of those decisions did the supervisors have a role in?
You could choose to have a role in it. What if we decided to say you can't have grain bins within 2,500 foot of a residence? Because people die in them.
Well, I haven't seen grain bins throwing anything. So what part of Iowa law or the Constitution gives you this right to make decisions for people?
Well, basically, I don't think that we have the right to outright ban wind in Woodbury County. I don't think that's our role or responsibility or
I don't think
right.
anybody has suggested that.
It pretty much is, though.
No, I don't. There's only one company out of 3 that's complaining about this. So only 1/3 of them think this is a bad idea. The other 2/3 don't even show up.
If you can wrap her up for it, well.
Okay. Well, you've already shown that you ignore our engineer, you ignore all studies, you ignore the Iowa Constitution because it doesn't give you the right to make life and death decisions for our residents. But what's worse, you are ignoring the vast majority of our constituents. Thank you.
I would like to, my name's John Nelson, 1255 Minnesota Avenue, Correctionville. I'd like to speak.
If you can just get it to somebody else, John, there's supposed to be one per person.
Mid-American got twice. I'd like to.
He asked him a direct question.
Okay. I'd like to be treated equal though. You got 2 mic times, I'd like 2 mic times.
Bernard Hare, 3030 Deer Run Trail, Anthony, Iowa. I drove east of Ida Grove yesterday, went down a long road headed for a wind turbine. First one I came to was 500 foot from a farmstead. Now, no house there, but there was buildings there, machinery there, and hay bales there. And it was probably, could be in 1,000 foot off the road. And right at the driveway to the wind turbine, it said, "No trespassing, danger, wind turbine." Now, if it wasn't dangerous, why couldn't I drive down there and take a closer look? Probably didn't want to see all the dead birds under it. And there's a whole lot of windmills in that area. And 2 of them weren't running. One of them had black, crappy oil running down the tower where it had leaked all the oil out of it. And these things, I think, are a maintenance nightmare. My wife's great-nephew services the old towers in Woodbury County that you have to climb up manually. He's only 20 years old. He does one of them per day for his summer job. And he says those things do kill birds.
I'm Ron Steinoff. I live at 3438 Snake Trail down in the Los Hills at Smithland. I have a farm west of Anthon. I don't know any studies that we're talking about Mid-America. I think Mid-America is a good company. I've advised people to invest in it, but my concern is when this all came about, a friend of mine that has an acreage called me. And I have a real estate license and wanted to know about if I was going to let them put a wind turbine near their home. When we get back to trying to be good neighbors, if I put a wind turbine on my farm, I would lose my neighbors. Also, I'm afraid they would lose some of the value in their home if they tried to sell it. I believe Woodbury County is growing. We've got businesses growing south of town. We don't need to have income from outside that leaves the community. This is all business that's here, that people are going to live here, that are working here. And I think that's a positive. I think it's a positive for all of you to keep the people here. We don't want them in Nebraska. We don't want them in South Dakota. We want them in Woodbury County working here. So there we got our kids. We've got our income. So just trying to be positive about Woodbury County. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, as in the last 2 readings, would it be possible to proceed with a show of hands, pro and against, and
Sure. I think we should do that. Anybody that...
thought I heard somebody on the phone just in case.
We did hear from Maria before. Do you want to see a show of hands in the room here as far as who's for and who's against? And so I'll do who is for increasing the setback to 2,500 feet? Please raise your hands. I'm going to let the news get that there.
Let the record show that the vast majority of people are...
No, and then we'll do the other who's in the room that is for keeping the setbacks at 1,250 or lower. All right. You don't count, Sam. I'm just teasing.
With that said, Mr. Chairman, I move the public hearing be closed.
I'll second. Motion by DeWitt, second by Raddick. Any discussion on that?
Anybody else want to speak?
And all those in favor say aye.
Eric Nelson, 1514 Jasper. I was here before these three hearings even started, when this discussion first started. And I've had wide experience visiting with a lot of people that have these towers over a wide area. And I said that very first night that I believe that Woodbury County is very fortunate to be at the tail end of the development so that we could learn from what's happened in other areas. And it's shame on this body if there's unwillingness to learn from what has happened, because what's happening is marketing. So, farm, definition, Oxford Dictionary, noun, an area of land and its buildings used for growing crops and rearing animals, typically under the control of one owner or manager. Wind farm, isn't that nice? It sounds nice, pretty innocuous. I just read what the definition of a farm is. So the other things, good news travels fast. Mid-American had the chance to produce and provide a bunch of documents tonight, a bunch, and they were very reticent to provide much depth. And again, I believe that if they'd had a lot of good news in all those documents, they'd have had a dump truck load here. So I hope you can all rise and do the right thing for all the constituents in Woodbury County. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. And would you guys want to make your motion the way it is, or were you wanting to look at an inclusion in case towers get bigger in the future?
Well, if the towers get bigger, that's not going to negate the 2,500.
No, I'm just asking.
I don't see any reason for that. I would move to have the final reading, approve the third and final reading of the ordinance amendment at 2,500 feet.
Second.
Motion by DeWitt, second by Taylor. Any discussion?
Yes. I'll just make a statement.
Sure thing.
I think every community has these sorts of meetings, every county at least, before making a decision on wind turbines, and that's a function of the state. The fact that there's no statewide setback or laws like that means that there is going to be differences between the counties, and so we enter into this private property versus public nuisance debate, and that turns out differently in each county. I don't think Woodbury County, it's fair to say, is stopping wind energy generation by approving this ordinance change. The reality is that, I'll just go back to previous comments I've made, that a good, bad, or indifferent, the nuisance issues with turbines are exacerbated by the population density in Woodbury County compared to other areas with industrial wind farms that are widespread. This is also an essentially irreversible choice. It is unfortunate that a year has passed since the ordinance was initially passed by the board, and that there are landowners, some of them that do live in Woodbury County, lobbying for turbines because they stand to benefit. I would just remind everyone respectfully that the barrier to entry for public participation in local government is essentially zero, and if there's any idea that anyone would like to keep updated, please contact our board office. They'll add you to the weekly agendas that go out every week, every Friday. I think it'd be helpful for a couple key people to be kept aware of that, because it's certainly not our intention to have anything not communicated enough, which I've heard is kind of the, one complaint last year from the county. Also, I would just, we've had people say, flatly, they'd rather pay more tax. So I'd like to just also request, while you're all here, to just realize that this is clearly a community-supported decision, and to bear with us as we do forego considerable tax revenue to Woodbury County. And that decision, I believe, is made with community support and to preserve the way of life that we enjoy. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any final thoughts?
I just real quickly want to state publicly what I've told a couple people, kind of after a couple meetings have happened the last couple weeks. So just want to go on the record and Mr. Thomas is going to torque you off. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yep. It's going to upset you because I have been listening. I've been listening for 3 weeks, and this is again the decision on whether or not to put a windmill on a farm is not a new topic for me. This was a decision that had to be made by my family here within the last 2 or 3 years. And so I'm familiar with the arguments on both sides. I think, I don't know, it's not a matter of whether or not you trust a study. It's a matter of trying to discern which studies get to the heart of the truth of the matter. Because there's confirmation bias on both sides of this issue, okay? How in the world can a person go to an objective source when there are so many other sources with confirmation bias built into them because they want a decision to be made that best or that most complies with that way of thinking. And so I think Mid-American Energy, I think y'all have your work cut out for you because there's a huge trust deficit. And I think you guys, I think you're aware of it. And so I hope that Mid-American Energy will work to build trust because I think there are benefits of this project that will not, and I understand, it's overwhelming in this room. Those of you that are sitting in here, those of you that have been sitting in here for the last month, those people that have cared enough to call or send an email, overwhelmingly, I've heard you, it makes no difference to you whether or not your taxes are going to go down by a couple bucks. You don't want windmills marring, in your view, the landscape of Woodbury County for the next year, for the next 50 years. I've heard you loud and clear. So I said you wouldn't be happy. I've heard you, but I'm still going to vote no because, here's why. I don't think this, by a large stretch of the imagination, I don't think this settles this issue. And I think you all are much better situated right now for these last few weeks to bring your concerns to the table with a group of people that know you by first and last name in many cases. And the next time that a decision has to be made on this, because this isn't going away. I have zero expectation. I can't imagine that you all have the expectation that because the county decides one thing tonight, that that's going to be the end of it. I just don't believe that. And so in some ways, my no vote is a vote of caution, because the next time that this issue has to be discussed, resolved, you may not be in a position for your voices to be heard, for your perspectives and your opinions to be taken with any measure of to carry any weight with the people that are making the decision at that point. And I'll leave it at this. It's the people opposed to the 1,250-foot setback or moving in the direction of 1,800 feet. It's been overwhelming in this room. I will say that this week, what I've received in my email has been balanced. For the first week, the pros and those on the one side of the issue, those on the other side of the issue, I received correspondence in equal measure for the first time this week. And so that plays into my decision tonight. And then this may really rankle some people, but consider that to protect the interest of a majority of constituents here in Woodbury County, we have to strip a right away effectively. Okay, we effectively have to strip the right away from a minority, right? It's a minority. I think it's fair to say there's a minority of constituents in Woodbury County that are on the opposing side of the issue. But we are still going to strip a right away from a smaller group of Woodbury County taxpayers. They pay taxes, just like everybody else does. And consider that that we're voting on a measure in order to protect the interests and safety and rights of a large majority of individuals, we're stripping a right away from another group of individuals. I just wanted to leave you, does that sound familiar to you? Are there any other issues for which you'd be on the other side of this vote? And I'll leave you with that. But I want to respond real quick to Mrs. Woodman, because I think she was here again tonight. Because she talked about a city ordinance. No, Stephanie, I think. Okay? She talked about a city ordinance. She was lamenting the fact that her daughter Emily could not have chickens in Sioux City. And I was just going to bring up the fact that that her other relatives, Amber and Jacob, were residents of Sioux City previously. They now live outside the city limits, so they can. But when they were residents of Sioux City, they did have chickens, because at that time, it was allowable in Sioux City. But then, since then, I don't know when
It still is.
I don't know when the city made the decision, but
It's like per your land and how
But-
many people live in the house.
Yep.
There's all sorts of.
I just the vote is, and sorry to be so long-winded, but I just really wanted you to understand where I'm coming from on this vote. And just while extremely unpopular, and I understand it's really unpopular with people in this room, my vote is going to be to protect the rights of the people in the minority here.
Go ahead.
I'll be brief, but I'd just like to reiterate my position before the vote tonight. We looked at studies that were 2,296 feet. Again, I'm always going to err on the side of caution. You do the cost-benefit analysis, not just in terms of economics, but also in terms of people's lives. If the county engineer said 2,068, which was alluded to tonight, by a 3.5 times margin of tip height for these wind towers that are larger in size than the Statue of Liberty, then even at 2,068, that would take some of those individuals out of being able to have these on their land. And in my estimation, you don't have a right necessarily to have a windmill, like we have certain other inalienable rights. So with that, I've been disappointed by the information that's been provided in terms of the liability. Mid-American originally suggested, and I'll admit, 1,000 to 1,200, but it said 1,800 would be an acceptable minimum. That's far higher than what they were originally suggesting. I don't think it's safe necessarily, and I think that there are concerns with what Mid-American has done on the federal and state level in terms of taxation and what's fair there, and the fact that 98% of you, week after week after week, in my 8 years, I've never seen this many people in the room one time, much less 3 weeks in a row. It's only grown. And so from that perspective, I believe that we need to, in no small part, reflect what you all want Woodbury County to look like for years to come. Those are my comments.
Go ahead.
I've listened to the people that I represent, and my vote will not change from the last 2 weeks. That's all I got.
I thought you said it well. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Nay. Passes 3-2. Thank you all.
Mr. Fair? Motion to adopt is the next item.
Okay.
We need to have a vote on the reading of the ordinance, and then we need to have a vote to approve the ordinance.
That was the motion on the reading.
I have a motion on the reading by DeWitt, second by Taylor. So that was the motion for the reading. We still need a motion to adopt the ordinance.
We're still in business, so if you're going to talk, move her upstairs.
The ordinance has not been adopted. We have one
Folks.
more motion to.
Hey, folks, we need to take another vote real quick.
And we actually have a whole lot more votes to
The
take, so
consequential vote.
take her upstairs if you're going to have conversations. Go Go ahead with your.
On this issue, we got to vote again.
It's still going to be 3-2, but go ahead.
We got to make the decision again formally.
I'd move to adopt the ordinance amendment.
Second?
Motion by Taylor, second by DeWitt. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Passes 3-2. Now you can move around upstairs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10A.
For listening to your public, 3 of you that voted. When I do my ballot and I'm looking at voting again, you won't be on it.
I probably won't be running. Come on up here, Kenny.
That might not be a bad idea.
It'll take a minute and a half to get them out, so we'll start back up.
Thank you all for taking the time and considering it.
Thanks.
Thanksgiving's not going to be very fun for me. I saw a couple family members' names on those petitions.
Where do they live?
Correction.
It's a good pile of people.
All right, Kenny, are you ready? We got Building Services 10A, approval of Trosper Hoyt structural south wall plan specs and form contract.
Kenny Schmitz, Building Services Director. CMBA has completed plans, specifications, and form of contract to be used in the competitive bidding process. This would be for the Trosper Hoyt structural wall repair. Joshua has reviewed those. Josh, we've made those changes that you did request. And we'd also like to have you approve the public notice and set the public hearing date.
What do we have as an estimate on that again?
I'm sorry, Keith?
What's your estimate on that?
I believe the estimate for the project's going to be about $175,000 is the architect's estimate. Of course, as part of a total cost, we'll also have the architectural fees in there, and we'll probably ask for a contingency. So we'll probably be pushing the 187 number, and it would be a 2023 CIP.
I'll move it.
Second for discussion.
Go ahead.
So 2023 CIP, do we have any sort of placeholder right now? What's the source of funds and the impact on taxation, et cetera?
Yes, it will be in our loan come next May. We did have that on the list when they first submitted it.
Okay.
But we've asked everybody to come back for formal approval.
Okay.
Because it does change, so this is the start of it.
So this doesn't affect our taxation based on what we...
Not this current year. It
Okay.
will next year when we actually, start paying on the loan.
Okay.
Yep. 20 years later.
Any other questions? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Item B, set a public hearing date of September 6, 4:40 p.m. at Woodbury County Board of Supervisors meeting and the public notice thereof.
I'll move that.
Second.
Motion by DeWitt, second by Taylor. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny. Did we have a question for Kenny? Well,
Oh, probably on the Trosper Hoyt security thing.
Road is on Elk Creek.
Oh.
Really?
I thought it was on Otter. Didn't somebody bring up Otter Drive?
Oh, yeah, 28th Street.
Oh. While we have you up here, on 28th Street, they asked about the little patch in front of the driveway to the jail being the last leg of that, and that's why the road is still closed, correct? Is that? Because the city's asking for that road to be open since that's all that's left, and you could divert around that, or?
I would have to answer your question with yes, but let me look into it. and talk to the contractors and the other people and see what thoughts are on that, and I'll get back with you.
Sounds great. I don't know if there's a way to get it done or anything too. I don't know if the contractor's working weekends. I'm sure they're not gonna drive those heavy form trucks over that. It's just gonna crack it, so I guess, yeah.
I did everything in my power here about 6, 8 weeks ago to figure out some way that we could manipulate getting that driveway done. Whether it be through a weekend, and that was my first question, can we do this thing through a weekend, a long weekend if it had to be? And I was told that they need at least a minimum of 4 days to get the work done, and then you can't drive on it afterwards for another 3, so that's what makes it very difficult. But I'll pose the question again.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
And then, of course, just ask them if they can anyway open the road and have a diversion around that, or,
Right,
do the, I don't know, traffic
Right.
control.
we'll look into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 11 from Emergency Services, approve funds using ARPA retention pay in FY23 for a wage increase effective July 1st, 2022. EMT 1957 to 2225, AEMT from 2016 to 2301, and paramedic from 2225 to 25.
Good evening, guys. Scott Mitchell, Emergency Services Director. What I'm asking for is, when I started this job almost 2 months ago, I dug into when they started emergency services, the EMTs and how they were paid. What I found is they never, ever got any raises other than cost of living. So I started doing the digging and got into Sioux City Fire and comparing it to that. We're not going to the top end, we're mid-range. But then, like I explained, after we do this, we're gonna figure out a way to set in, when I go to argue with you for my budget, it'd be in a 3-year span. It'd be so much 2 years, and the 3rd year would be a raise to start bringing these people up. Because we want this to grow, we gotta retain these people. I mean, truth of the matter is, you can go to secondary roads and start to run a road grader. You hired one tonight for more money than what a paramedic makes. And paramedic has to go to school anywhere from 12 to 18 months to become a paramedic, and then they have to have 60 hours a year of continuing ed. I mean, it's kind of offset. And I'm not asking for it all. I'm not asking to jump to what Sioux City is. I'm trying to put us in the middle so we can work our way there. Because if we want to grow this department, this should have started years ago, just not now. But I can't fix what happened before. I just got to work on what's forward.
So personally, I think maybe we should not backdate this one, maybe go to like mid-September, September 16th or something. Would that make your side of the job a lot easier?
Yes.
So I would change that effective date in motion. Is the 16th the payday? What is it? Is it for mid-September? I think we got the he said a wind turbine. Sorry.
The 23rd is the pay date.
Okay, so let's make it September 23rd. It's like a gerbil chewing on the line in the walls or something.
We're not gonna be able to get to it for a while. It's a historical building.
That's right.
Kenny will present it in next week's agenda.
No closer than normal.
For a second.
Oh, you made a motion?
Might be our Grant Township clerk.
Joshua, I think it was. Okay. I saw him go like this and it stopped. All right, either way, it's done. So I'll second. Did you say effective September 23rd, though? You didn't make the motion? Did you make the motion?
I thought you were making a motion and.
Oh, okay, well then I'll make the motion September 23rd.
Second.
All right, motion by Raddick, second by DeWitt. Any other discussion on this? I know
Oh,
this-
no, yes.
I mean, for one thing, I know we're having issues, hiring still in this area, and it is a specialized field. It is something I would never, ever want to do, so.
Well, and just so you guys know, I've started looking at that differently. So, I know we need to hire paramedics, but if we can get 3 or 4 part-time people, you were forcing 2 paramedics to work 36 hours straight. You can't do that. I mean, you can do that, and they did it, but physically for them to keep doing it, they can't. And we've got one retiring.
Yeah, when you're in the prime age of, 69 years old, that's easy to work 36
Yeah,
days,
yeah.
hours.
Yeah, so, I mean, I have looked at it different ways and trying to, hire maybe more part-time paramedics, but we still gotta find, now we gotta find 2, because we have one leaving in December 31st retiring, so.
The only thing I wanted to clarify is the source of funds is ARPA, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I talked to Dennis
That
about
was in the motion potentially?
That was in there.
Okay.
right? Was it not? Yeah, ARPA retention pay,
Okay.
yes. All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in
We
favor?
just clarified, just to be clear for payroll, that this is effective, the work period to be paid on September 23rd. So the effective date actually would be the start of the work period that is paid on the 23rd, correct?
If that's functional and doable,
Yes.
yes.
So what is that date, Michelle? I can look tomorrow, it's okay, it's all right. If that's when it's paid, yeah, I can look it up tomorrow.
I believe September 5th. I can verify it tomorrow for sure, but September 5th, Labor Day.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Item 12, County Auditor and Treasurer. Approve resolution supporting supplemental pay to appointed deputies of the County Auditor and Recorder Commissioner Elections, County Treasurer. Is it just the one there, Scott? Just the top one? Just sign the top one, or who? Oh, that's, sorry. Yeah, okay, it's signed.
Michelle Scaff, Deputy Auditor, representing Pat Gill.
Tina Burchan, Woodbury County Treasurer.
So the item that we have before you is a request to support a supplemental pay to 6% deputies. We did an analysis of all the salaried wage plan individuals, and as the board approved 4% on the bi-weekly rate, the auditor in the treasurer's office, when we did the analysis, is at the bottom of 38 individuals or so. And in order to get them equivalent to what the wage plan salaried individuals received, which was 4% on the bi-weekly rate, which basically amounts to 8% on the annual fiscal year amount, it would take $17,414 to pay these 6 individuals a supplemental pay that would give them equivalent of the 4%. It's proposed to pay this out of ARPA funds that Dennis has assessed would be appropriate.
Go ahead.
Well, I for one, I'm going to be supportive of this tonight because I thought it was the right thing to do. From the start, I think these individuals worked very hard. My only thing would be to approve it as a motion, which I think we've done historically in the past, rather than a resolution. I think it's the same effect. And so with that, I'd make a motion to approve supplemental pay in the amount of $17,414.03 from ARPA funds for the appointed percentage deputies.
I'll second. Yeah, I was willing to support this 6 months ago, I guess, so. I don't know, I was kind of frustrated that the response 6 months ago, but I'll let it be water under the bridge. So, any other discussion or?
One comment I am going to add is that, this takes into account longevity wages, which I think 6 months ago, we weren't having detailed conversations in terms of how this was going to actually be implemented. And so since then, we've had the opportunity to take a look at what the real impact is and come up with a way that we can actually work with some of the other proposed budgeted approaches to this. So this method would also still keep the longevity intact.
Did we have an effective date proposed in this, or should we put that here at this point?
I would propose the effective date to be the next payroll after this.
Okay. So,
I think we're back to
I don't think that-
September 5th, I think it is, yes.
September 23rd.
This will be separated from longevity, because longevity is still in the budgets. This is being helped to use, offset this a little bit, so the 17,000 will be a one-time deal, only one time. The
oh, so it's a
longevity will still stay in the
one-time,
budgets as they submit their
not per
budgets.
pay period kind of thing? Are you saying it's a one-time, not per pay period thing?
Nope, one-time check. And IPERS is covered, and also Social Security.
So then it's really immaterial when this is being delivered, is that right?
So, yeah, I guess, yeah, that would make.
If it's, I'm just wondering if it's a one-time thing, it's really immaterial on when it's being dispersed. You're not having to calculate a bunch of pay periods and see, is that correct?
No, this is easy compared to what
Okay.
we're doing with all the rest of the groups going back to July 1st. Yes,
Okay.
this is a one lump sum payment.
And they'll do it anytime within the next 2 weeks. They didn't really have to go on their check on the next payroll. They could do it next week if they can do it.
What I would prefer to do is to take care of the corrections that I have, that I'm working on, which is the civilian jailers, the CWA road workers, since that was approved prior to this, and I think that they deserve to have those payments as soon as I can get those accomplished, but it's just time intensive. And then once those are completed, and then we would do this.
So I don't think we have to put an effective date at all. It's basically when you're able to get to it, and appreciative that you're putting those folks in order, so to speak.
I think the request would have to come from the Treasury Department as the longevity, the longevity bonuses. That same request would be made to the auditor, providing, of course, that the board approves it.
Well, let's cover that then. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Reports on committee meetings. Rocky?
Went to a SHIP meeting Friday. They're gonna do their grand opening of their new office out there at, Hillcrest, does that sound right? Out there by,
Yep.
they're gonna do that shortly. Other than that, I don't remember anything too deep.
Not really a committee, but Keith and I did meet with the city and a developer just talking about Elk Creek and that portion from Old Lakeport interchange there. And if we have a potential to use TIF and participate with the city in a way that might grow development in that area in the future, there is a present agreement. I don't want to get too into the weeds, but we're going to gain some more information, come back before the board. It would obviously need everybody's approval, but just want to let you know in a spirit of transparency, those discussions are being had, and we'll see where they go in the future.
I guess to add more to that, initially the agreement was a third, and that was estimated at around $135,000 or $133,000 per party. But by the time this will be bid out, they're expecting that project to be about $750,000. But if we pave all the way to the intersection, now you're talking about $1.5 million. And does that include the new roundabout intersection as well? So about $1.5 million is the total estimate of what we initially had paid, or expecting to pay $133,000. So that's why we were discussing how we could potentially pay for this in the future, which seems like TIF would be the easiest, or we could put it through CIP, or...
Because right now you're basically giving, there's going to be an island of concrete or pavement there. It's going to go gravel, concrete, gravel, And so this would be going all the way to Old Lakeport. So that's one of the ideas, and spurring development further in that area.
Justin? Matthew? Citizen concern, round 2. Board concern. Oh.
Thank you.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
This has to be good. I didn't hear it.
I hope Alamos aren't hazy as hell. I don't know who your college team is, but.
Well, I'm actually a Badger, but turned into a Hawkeye by my wife.
You went from bad to worse.
Well, at least it's not Nebraska.
That's what made me say that.
They can't even spell out.
Oh, wait, Justin, there is a memorandum.
Your desk?
Yes.
In my folder or around?
No, it should be laying over there on that side, though. But it's not-
Get some shirt almost, but I just got to put your logo on it.
I did send it in.
Keith Raddick, Woodbury County Board of Supervisors Chairman.
I know. So Keith, of course, the big issue tonight was the final public hearing and, vote for the setbacks being pushed back. Dig into the vote and what's going on.
Basically, at this point, the supervisors, the majority decided to agree, we will move the setbacks to 2,500 feet. At this point, it leaves very small pockets of Woodbury County available to wind development, so you likely won't see it in Woodbury County. My fear for the future is that the discussion might not be over, it might be taken up in the State House in the future, where you won't see us, ample opportunity to speak. But that's only if other counties follow suit. So if Woodbury County's the outlier and we stay the outlier at 2,500 feet, residents might be happy with that, but if other counties follow suit, I think that may spur state action in the future.
And so one of the drawbacks